I don't have control just yet.
Still no control?
Oh, there we go. I finally got it. There we go.
Perfect. Right.
All right. Just let me know, confirm that you can see my screen.
Yep. See?
Excellent.
Clear. Yep.
Excellent. Good. Well, again, thank you everyone for having me on. Thanks for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to come to this team and these countries here from Wisconsin here. So just a quick introduction about myself. I know I've met some of you, but my name is Brian Lane. I'm certified pedorthist with Dr. Comfort, education director, and I'm based here in Wisconsin. Quick background on me: I've been with Dr. Comfort now for actually going on 12 years. As the education director and held some various other roles. Prior to that, I was a practitioner, like many of you, but a CPED working for a podiatrist here in the United States. And prior to that, I was actually a teacher. So I think I combined two careers together. But the nice thing about today, too, is you also have the pleasure of having Mr. Eric Janessi on the call. He is another one of our corporate trainers. He's on the call today. He's been with the company. Is it 3 years, Eric? 3 years?
3 years, yep.
3 glorious years. And he comes with a wealth of knowledge, a lot more experience than I do when it comes to patient care. He's had 25 years of patient care. And he's also on the call, again, just to maybe add some additional information about the things that I'm covering today. So it's everyone's special treat to have Eric on today. So thanks, Eric, for joining.
Thank you, Brian.
So just a couple things. If you saw kind of the itinerary or the agenda for today, we want to talk a little bit about some studies that have been done, the uniqueness of Dr. Comfort shoes. We'll even talk about some of the specific benefits, quality and benefits of the Dr. Comfort shoes before I give just a minor demonstration on fitting real quick. So kind of just to jump right in. So in the United States, we actually, if you're not familiar, we have reimbursement for our elderly healthcare insurance company called Medicare. Pays for the cost of shoes, a majority of the cost of the shoes, and it ends up being a medical device. And what we had done several years ago is we actually tracked those people who are getting these medical devices, these therapeutic shoes. Typically, they're patients with diabetes in the United States. But what we did is we tracked these patients over a 2-year period of time to evaluate these patients who have diabetes and receive the footwear and compare those to patients who had diabetes and did not receive the footwear. So with this, you could almost call it a short study. A couple key things came out of this. Number one, there was an ulcer reduction, a 12% reduction in ulcerations for patients who received the shoes and an 18% reduction in amputations. Now, again, a couple things about this study. First of all, this just wasn't a study of putting shoes on some people and not on others. This was a double-blind study, so we looked at retrospective data of over 26,000 patients. So this wasn't, again, just a small 100 people study. This was an actual study to track these patients to find out if the shoes have merit, if the shoes are responsible and show obviously benefits, and absolutely we found that. So for the 2-year period of time, we watched people who had diabetes receive shoes, and then we followed those patients for a year or two afterwards to find out there was, again, the ulcer reduction and also the amputation reduction. To my knowledge, this is one of the biggest studies that was done for therapeutic footwear, and done in a way that didn't jeopardize people. Because I've always wondered how you could do a study to track therapeutic footwear and the benefits of therapeutic footwear, where you would put what? Some people would get measured proper footwear, depth footwear, and other people wouldn't. I mean, you're setting those people up for failure. So again, very comprehensive study. If anybody's interested in this, I'd be happy to provide this, but I think all the information is on the screen right now. But fantastic study that again tracked some pretty important and significant data. Okay. So I know your job as a practitioner, that's supposed to be you as the practitioner on the right and the patient on the left. Your job as a practitioner is difficult. Again, with my experience, with Eric's experience, we know that what you are thinking and what you should be providing this patient is not always what that patient is thinking. And we have a kind of a phrase here that we're looking for the most therapeutically beneficial shoe possible for these patients. And of course, that shoe on the left that that patient is thinking about is not the right patient, not the right shoe for that patient. In fact, maybe that's the reason why she's getting this footwear. But ultimately, you have a very challenging job is to get the right footwear on these patients' feet. So that's where Dr. Comfort comes in. So let me tell you some basics about Dr. Comfort and what we have. Our footwear comes in American sizing, full and half sizes. So when I say American sizing, of course, we've got American sizing, but on that sizing chart on our tongue or wherever the sizing states that it does have Euro sizing and also UK sizing. So they're all sized on there. However, our sizing has to be based on American sizing because, again, that's where we primarily distribute the shoes here in the world. But that ends up being pretty close to the overall sizing that you may be using or used to with some European sizing. Okay, but overall we have full and half sizes. If you really want to think about how our shoes are determined for full and half sizes, we're talking inches here, but 1/3 of an inch and 1/6 of an inch. Okay. In addition to the sizing, we also have various widths. We have the medium, wide, extra wide. Some of the ladies' styles even have a narrow. For some of those narrow or very slender feet. Various closure systems. We have everything from the lace and to hook and loop, also known as Velcro, to the quick tie lacing that you'd find on some of the athletic shoes like the Performance and Refresh. These shoes also have extra depth, entire length of the shoe. We typically say toe box, but it's the entire length of the shoe that has extra depth to allow for conditions like swelling, hammer toes, different conditions of the feet. And of course, we use various different materials based on patients' needs. We'll use leather, of course, for nice, supportive, durable material, to materials like Lycra, which is that stretchable fabric you'll find on some shoes like the Annie or the Brian. Or the mesh shoes, again, more a little bit breathable uppers, or even the printed PU that we have in a couple of those. But ultimately, our footwear is based on conditions. All the time, no matter where I am providing this training and everything, I always get the question about a shoe, whether it's good for a patient or not. And I'll be quite honest with you, there are some shoes that those patients, there are specific patients that they were not kind of in mind when we were developing and designing those shoes. We have specific needs, and based on those needs and the feedback that we get is when we develop different shoes. So that's the purpose of today, just reviewing a lot of the different styles that we have and some of the benefits and who the shoes would benefit when it comes to the footwear. So starting with probably our most durable outsole, and probably the several times I've been to the Nordics there, it's always about the durability of our outsole. One comment that I'll make when it comes to the durability of our outsole is what you may or may not know, and I'm going to actually stop sharing my slides just for a moment here so I can show you this. So on your screen you should see me, and what we do for some of our styles of shoes is we could modify those. Now this doesn't look like too much of a modified shoe, but if you'll notice, this has got a heel and sole lift, or just a little bit more of a rigid outsole. So when we get the question, Brian, is it possible to make a little bit more rigid sole? So the answer is yes. We are coming up and developing with more rigid outsoles, but what we have is specifically the ability here to have a lab here in the United States that has a very rigid outsole. So our lab could actually create a little bit more rigidity on our outsole. So that's what a little bit of the difference is, that we have kind of a little bit of that availability with a lab to do that. Of course, many of you are probably working in a lab setting or doing that, and maybe don't want to always do that for your patients and everything. But overall, that's what we typically have is our lab to use that. Sorry, looks like my slides are starting over here. Apologize. Sorry about that. Just skipping through some slides. So the first ones I want to highlight are going to be the ones with a little bit more durable outsole. That's the Performance Winter Plus Endurance Refresh Victory and Spirit. So The difference with this outsole is it's a rubber outsole. It's got an EVA midsole, and it does have that external shank piece. So again, when I'm asked the question, what's our most durable or most rigid outsole? It's typically, my typical answer and typical response is going to be the one that's on the Performance, Refresh, and Victory, as I just mentioned. Okay, so that's what the outsole looks like. It's going to be a little bit, again, more rigid for some of your needs as I've had those specific questions. Now, we also introduced this past year our stability outsole. So our stability outsole has in my opinion, probably just as good stability or just as good rigidity as the other one. So the 6 shoes that we launched last year, the Gordon, Grace, Roger, Ruth, and Jack and Diane. And those outsoles that we have on there is, again, what we call the stability outsole. So a couple benefits to this one is it's a dual density rear foot. So dual density in the heel of the shoe and the rear foot of the shoe has a very firm medial rear foot. So in the medial side, or obviously where the great toe is, or the heel on the medial side of the foot, it has a little bit more firmness to that portion of the outsole, and the purpose for that is to help over pronation. The second thing, or the second parts of the qualities of these outsoles, is it's got a wider shank piece. And it's just an overall wider sole. It's an out-flared sole. In other words, the sole is wider than the uppers of the shoe to, again, provide that balance and stability for the patients. The wider shank piece, of course, to help to redistribute weight and take pressure off of the ball of the foot a little bit more, and really provides a lot more stability and support. So again, when we talk about the most stable, the most durable, the most firm outsoles, it's going to be those two. The first one being on the EVA rubber outsole, or this one being the stability outsole. So either one of those are going to be the most stable, the most durable that we have when it comes to footwear. Next, we do have some, again, specialty shoes. So this is where we get in a little bit more specializing in the footwear that we offer, the washable shoes. So typically, I would never recommend to wash any of our shoes, especially with leather or some of the materials that we make. But the Carter and the Marla, if you've never used these before, they're actually our lightest weight shoe. They come with a washable insert, but these shoes have been shown to be able to be washed over 50 times in a wash machine. So that's something that that is beneficial for the shoe. But again, this is where I would advise against patients who extremely supinate or pronate. It's not going to have the support, of course, as the other ones. Again, also with those shoes, they're lightweight, but with lightweight shoes comes obviously there's a compromise. So a little bit on the outsole and the uppers of the shoe. Okay. We also have the quick tie laces. As I mentioned, several of our shoes have different closure systems. I'm a big fan of the quick tie lace. With that quick tie lace, it also comes with standard set of laces. So if you don't like those or the patient doesn't like those, you can use the standard laces. But what's nice about these is it almost provides a slip-on type of effect with these shoes. Slip them on and quickly tie them. And for those of you who don't know, on the Performance and Refresh style shoes, in the tongue of the shoe, there's actually a pocket. So I've heard some people complain that piece or that component moves a little bit, and you can actually tuck that right into the pocket, which is a nice little feature. The quick tie part of that goes right in the pocket of the shoe. Okay. We also do have, again, when we talk about durability, we're going to have our steel toe work boot, which is also an oil resistant outsole known as the Protector. We have some American companies that actually have approved this steel toe for impact and also for compression resistance. If any of you need that data or anything, we have that, but that data actually shows that our shoes have the approval for most manufacturing sites to use these steel toe boots as their work boot. In addition, so some of the testing was we dropped, that was done. It was they dropped the 34 kilogram weight on the toe, and the change in depth had to be less than 12.7 millimeters. So that's pretty much how they had to do that. Same with the overall compression. They did some different tests to ensure that, again, it meets the minimum requirements. If you have some specific requirements, please let me know. I'll be happy to provide some additional information. And then I mentioned different materials. Lycra, Lycra is available on several different styles of shoes. Some it's the entire uppers, others it's a combination of leather and Lycra. So the nice thing about Lycra is it's great for swelling, for that edema, for different toe deformities, sometimes for bracing. That's the Brian shoe on the left there, and that's the Douglas there on the right. So different styles and designs of shoes that we have in order to accommodate the different deformities. In this case, obviously, we have specific patients in mind for these types of shoes. Some little things I wanted to point out, a couple of little things about, say, the Chris and the Megan shoe. So the Chris and Megan shoe actually have an additional eyelet way up towards the top of the throat of the shoe. And some people just dismiss that. I guess it's not really an eyelet, it's more of a hook or a loop there. And what's unique about this, and I cut the shoe open to show you, is that shoe, that eyelet at the top, or that little hook at the top, if you lace it through that hook at the top, it actually connects to the back of the shoe. That really helps for securing. So I think of the patient for this shoe would be a wide forefoot and a very narrow heel. So if they have a narrow heel, you loop it all the way up to that one, and as you pull that lace tight, that's going to really secure and secure the rear foot of the shoe a lot better. And then what we call our double depth shoes. Our double depth shoes are the shoes that have even more depth in the toe box than the other ones. Again, there's specific ranges and everything that we have to meet, but all of these shoes have double depth or additional depth in that toe box. And those shoes would include the Brian, the William, all of these shoes with an X after the name have even more depth in that toe box. So again, very beneficial for patients. We even have the double depth with the Lycra, so really talking about some significant edema and swelling of the foot. One shoe that's not specifically highlighted in a picture here is the Edward X and the Lucy X. That one opens up distally. It opens all the way up, almost like a surgical style opening for that specific style of shoe. And then, of course, we've got different boots. Those boots are great for ankle support, for rear foot stability, everything from kind of a dress boot to a hiking boot, to even a little bit more of the boots made for work. So some work boots on there as well. Okay. So those are the different the boots that we offer. Our dress shoes. When we talk about dress shoes, of course, people need some good dress shoes. So our dress shoes are obviously still the same depth. Typically going to be made of the natural calfskin leather that we're using for a majority of our shoes. So very durable, made specifically more for work or more formal occasions, and very traditional designs. The one on the top is a very traditional design, especially here in the United States. That wing is what we call that one, and somewhat neutral colors that we offer on those various different dress shoes. When it comes to our lightest weight shoes, those are going to be the Chris, Jason, Megan, and Katie. So with these are the lightest shoes available. But again, I'm going to go back to, these are not suitable for patients requiring support, excessively pronating or supinating. Anybody that, again, requires that support, has a brace with their shoe. I will also say that this outsole is not as durable as our other outsoles as well. When we talk about the most durable and the most rigid, we're talking about that rubber EVA one and the Performance and Refresh and the Stability outsole. When I'm talking about the least supportive, it's going to be the shoe. So keep in mind, though, we had a specific patient in mind. This is that very elderly patient, the patient that cannot have a lot of weight on their foot, or obviously because they're complaining about the weight of the shoes and everything. In some cases, might even have some different other conditions. We find that our elderly arthritic patients or patients who've had a stroke might benefit from a very lightweight shoe. Again, some minor modifications to the outsole even might benefit them to assist them while they're walking as well. And then, as I mentioned before, different materials that we use, the Katie and the Jason, the one on the top is a PU printed material. So polyurethane, where the Chris and the Megan is more of a mesh upper. That's where the lightweight design comes in. Oh, there's the Edward X and Lucy X. I knew I had some slides on it. So the benefit to this shoe is, for the men, it's the Edward X. For the ladies, is the Lucy X. Is the hook and loop design. So it's it's the Velcro strap that it has. It goes up both sides of the shoe, and it even has, if you notice, those little swivel closures. So the benefit to the swivel closure is if that patient has a very high instep or a brace, then they could actually swivel that close, and right on the top of that screen you can see it's a normal securing latched and everything on there. But what could happen is if they have a high instep, where the throat of the shoe is, this actually might need to be swiveled down a little bit in order to capture the hook and loop closures there. So again, great for high insteps, braces, lots of benefits to a style and design of shoe like this. We had many O&P, orthotists and prosthetists are the ones who actually helped to design and develop a shoe like this, just to benefit and what their needs specifically were. Okay. And that kind of concludes for our shoes. Now, the other part of our footwear is our socks. If you're not familiar, Dr. Comfort makes some fantastic socks. I have to be honest, I think they're one of the best that are out there on the market. Lots of different designs from the no-show, Mary Jane, and ankles. But some of the benefits to the socks is they do have a graduated upper. So like the shoe, the sock on the far right there with what we call the above the calf, or it could be below the knee, whatever you want to call that one, does have a graduated material to it. So that means more pressure at the ankle and less towards the calf muscle. The top of this these socks are primarily mesh. The reason for the mesh is more breathable material, and it's more cushioned on the bottom. So the materials that are woven in here are bamboo charcoal, nano bamboo charcoal fibers, and those fibers with the materials make it very moisture wicking, antimicrobial. If you'll notice the different designs that we have, you'll see this, it's got an arch band on here. That arch band is to prevent bunching or that sock from sliding down into the shoes. Non-binding material towards the top, wherever obviously the ankle or calf goes in. We also do offer the transmet sock. I'm a big fan of that one. So for patients with a transmetatarsal amputation, we sell socks, and one of them would be that half sock for that transmet amputation. And the patient would actually get another normal full-length sock for their non-affected foot. Of course, if they do have an affected foot, they would get two of those. You get two individual socks. Okay. And some other, again, different features about it. Again, it's a light arch support, as I mentioned. It's also got what's called Y-gore or Y-seam stitching in the construction of this sock, which means if you turn it inside out, which again, if you've got one, turn one inside out, you'll see that there's no prominent seams or stitching that potentially could cause pressure on someone's foot, especially with those diabetic feet. It could cause some pressure on there and obviously get inflamed, cause some rubbing and redness, but not with these socks. These socks have some Y-gore construction where instead of seeing a seam, of course, there is some stitching on there, but there's not a prominent seam on there to cause that. Okay, so those are some of the features of the socks. And then finally, I want to show you some new designs that we have coming out in the next several months here. Some unique designs. One of them is going to be the Gordon X and the Grace X. So you see with the X after the name means it's double depth. And we've had a lot of success with those shoes, the Gordon and the Grace. So we're going to offer those in the double depth or the extra depth model. It will be only available in black. But again, by popular demand, we're turning this into the double depth shoes. We're looking at early part of next year to have that shoe. Okay. Another shoe we're coming out with is some wool designs. So some wool designs. It's going to be some merino wool uppers. Makes the shoe pretty lightweight. We're going to have both men's and women's styles, both lace and the hook and loop closures. Will be a couple different options. I'll tell you right now, I'm actually wearing a design today. I'm very pleased with it. This shoe comes on that lightweight outsole of the Jason, the Chris, the Megan, and the Katie. So it makes it a very lightweight, very nice shoe. I'm again very pleased with that, the wool design that we came out with. We also have some athletic sandals. I didn't want to show you all the different colors that we have and offered, but that athletic sandal. So this one's going to be on our little bit more durable outsole that we have. When we talk about that durability, that outsole, that's the performance and refresh outsole for those athletic sandals. It is open air, so it does have ventilation a little bit more, and it also has that quick tie lacing system to be able to tie and secure those shoes very well. So a total of 4 different colors for men and 3 different colors for ladies. The other one that we have coming out, and again, we're still in the design phases for this one, is what we're calling a faux lace or fake lace. So what it looks like and what it appears to be is a lace design. What you'll find is it's actually a hook and loop closure. So these D-rings that are on the side here will be able to, again, by a hook and loop closure, be able to unsecure. You can actually unsecure. So you would lace the shoe and you can unsecure it on the side there to make it easy for donning and doffing, putting on and taking off, and still have the look of a lace-up style shoe. So those are what we're looking to launch early part of next year, part of 2021 schedule. So that's where I will conclude my presentation that I have for all of you. One last thing I wanted to show you, just because I wanted to make sure that we had a demonstration still here. I didn't have a patient in my office or anything today, but I did want to talk to you a little bit quickly about measurement. When we're talking about measurement, again, not to insult anybody's intelligence, but so many times I found people trying to cut corners when it comes to measurement. And just when you get that Brannick device and when you're taking that measurement, just measuring to the end of the longest toe, okay, there's the measurement. Okay, well, I will discourage that as much as possible. It's not only about the length of the toe, but it's about that metatarsal phalangeal joint. It's about where that bunion occurs when you're taking that measurement for that patient. That to me is almost more important than the toe length. When we talk about overall length, I want to make sure that where the ball of the foot and where that foot is flexing is matching pretty closely to where that shoe is flexing. So we want to make sure that those two are in that same area, same location. So when you're taking that overall measurement, again, length is important. We never want to go shorter than the toes, but you should also take into consideration the heel to ball measurement. That heel to ball measurement, again, will tell you where that foot is flexing. And a lot of times if I find, let's just say the length here is a size 6 and this is a 6.5 on the arch length, I'm typically going to go up to that 6.5 because I want that shoe to flex in the same spot of where the ball of the foot will flex in the same spot as the break point of the shoe. Okay. And with the overall width, depending on the Brannick device you have, maybe you have a European one, or we've sent a lot of American sizing ones on there, and that's a little bit more helpful. And pretty much you follow the sizing for the width on the side there, medium wide, extra wide, fairly simple. We actually have some, if you would like some additional training, we have some training videos on our website and in the American website if you're interested. Again, we can make sure we provide that to you as well. Okay. So I believe I've done enough rattling and talking. I'm almost right at my 30 minutes, I think, Demo. So let's open it up for questions if that's okay, Demo.
Absolutely. Oh, perfect timing. That was spot on, wasn't it? So thanks.
Of course.
Well, you've done it a few times, right? So thanks a lot, Brian. A lot of good and great information and exciting news as well. Exciting launches for next year. Very good with the Brannick device as well. So now is the time to write some questions in the chat. We'll open up for the Q&A session. I'll let people write in the chat, and during that time I could start by asking one question that we've experienced here in the Nordics the last couple of months. So recently we changed from the gel insert to the moldable insert for various reasons, and a question or many questions regarding the moldable insert has been regarding the how to shape it, how to heat it, and then shape it. So what would your recommendations be?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, and I'm probably speaking to most O&P orthotists and prosthetists where you would potentially have some sort of heat gun in your office or an oven or something else that you could actually heat it up. But typically in the United States, we typically use an oven or a heat gun. And the benefit to the heat gun is you could do some specific heating of a specific spot of that insert. So when you're doing that, the way I would typically do that is the heat gun, and I would focus on the arch or wherever you need to focus on. But I would heat mold both the bottom and the top, Both materials are moldable. The base is an EVA material, and the top cover is more of a closed cell polyethylene, like a plastizote or P-cell is the material on the top cover. And those are both moldable. So if you are molding those, again, if it's in an oven, of course, it's all going to mold together. But if you're using a heat gun, you can just heat in specific spots. But typically, I crank that temperature up of that heat gun as hot as it goes, and about 15 to 20 seconds, it's pretty moldable for that patient's foot.
And if it would be helpful, we have a couple videos that we could send you that you could share as well.
Yep.
That would be great. Yeah, because I think it's such a valuable feature. So it would be great to have our customers to really utilize it and not be kind of scared of heating it up and shaping it. So. Yeah,
sure.
Thanks.
What I will also add to that is a lot of times we even talk about and encourage different pads to go along with it, because as you know, it's not a rigid arch support, but if you do need a little bit more of an arch support, we recommend some what we call pedorthic pads, or just overall arch pads and everything that can go underneath that insert. We typically would glue it on the underneath side, so that will achieve a little bit more of an arch contact. We have some specifics and guidelines here in the States that if the patient has diabetes, they should have full arch contact. So that's where we would add different pads like that. Or we offer other pads too for different offloading. Again, you may want to do this by grinding down, but we also have different offloading pieces that you can place on the bottom of the insert to offload specific sites as well. So that was a good question, Dima.
Interesting. And that was new to me. So, and that is available to order separately then.
It is, yeah. So I can make sure that you get that list of what we call, again, pedorthic pads that we have, and it comes a variety of different lists of heel lifts to arch pads, some different posting pads, met pads, a little bit of everything. So
perfect. Thank you. So, any other questions? I don't see anything in the chat. I'll throw in another question that we've received, and that is about the blue fillers.
Yes.
So just tell us a little bit about them, how you use them, when you use them, and maybe is it just to fill out the shoe, or could it also be as a template if they're making their own inserts, etc. So
yeah, so just to kind of give you a little background, these are actually required. These blue fillers are actually required in the United States for us to provide the shoes with them. So it is a requirement. I want to first make sure that we understand, and I think this goes without saying, that there's no therapeutic value to these, okay? These are just a little thin piece of EVA. Some people have tried to say, hey, can we just put those in the shoes? No, the answer is no, of course not. You can't do anything to these. So that's the first thing. But I could probably go on about 10 to 15 minutes of all the different tools or different reasons why you'd use these. So you kind of hit on one. You could use it as a template. So if you are making your own inserts or orthotics for that patient, obviously you could use this as the template, because that's going to match the design in the last of the shoe. So whatever is in the shoe box will be the last in design of the shoe. So you could make your orthotics, if you're making your own, based on that for the template. I've also used these for patients that have different wounds. So if the patient does have a wound, I've actually taken some scissors and found out where that wound was, and I would actually cut the hole of that wound for that patient. And once that other insert goes on there, it's going to help to offload that site. So that's another reason for it. If their ankle bones or malleoli are rubbing on the top line of the shoe, sometimes I'll cut just the heel, and I'll lift them a little bit out of the heel of the shoe, just so their ankles are not rubbing on the top line of the shoe. If the patient gets some heel slipping, if they get a little bit of heel slipping, this is where what I'll typically do with the heel slipping is I'll actually cut the blue pad there like this, and then I will place that on the end of the shoe. So if I had that shoe, I would place that underneath the insert all the way down, and what that will do to reduce heel slipping, after putting an insert on there, that will keep the patient's foot deep and seated in the heel, snug up the fit, and sometimes reduce slipping in the heel. So that's another feature about it. Sometimes with patients with swelling, I'll tell them to put that blue spacer in underneath the insert that they have in there, maybe early in the morning before swelling. And as that swelling occurs, maybe they want to take out that blue filler throughout the day. So those are a couple maybe of our most common ones. Eric, I don't know if you have anything additional that you'd add with those blue fillers, those blue spacers.
I had to step away for just a second, so I don't know if you mentioned it, but where I like to use them is when we have where one foot is about a half a size or a size smaller than the other one. I like to take the blue filler out on the larger foot and leave the blue filler in on the smaller foot, and that helps kind of cut down on the need to order mismated shoes.
Oh, that's a perfect example too. So obviously when you're measuring, you're going to measure, and a patient might have a size, let's say 9.5 on the left and a 10 on the right. You order the 10 shoe, but when those size 10 shoes come in, obviously the 9.5 foot might be a little bit roomy. So absolutely, Erica is saying for those mismated feet or different sized feet. So excellent. Another solid answer for those blue fillers. But to dispel any rumors about these, no, these are not odor eaters. I've had many people say they'll help to eliminate odor. That's not what they're there for. Again, they're a Medicare requirement. I'll be honest, when I was a practitioner, I would typically remove those out of the shoes because I had too many patients that would come back the following year for a follow-up and only be wearing those blue spacers. And again, as I mentioned, there's no therapeutic value, so that's a concern of mine. So,
perfect answer, Brian, and thanks to Eric as well. I think a lot of our customers they just throw them away because they don't
and
really
that's understandable
the
too.
value of it.
I've seen them, so I've even used them. I've actually given them back to people. Like I've given them back to some school teachers would love them. They could actually use them for school projects. That's, again, my background is a little bit thinking about that. So yeah, you could definitely don't throw them away. Someone could use them for something. So.
And definitely, and they do have a lot of values here. And I think the offloading and of course the depending on the fit of the shoe and the size of it, that you can do some modifications with it. Sure. I think it's definitely beneficial.
Well, I think if I can make one more comment too with those blue fillers. So if anybody plans on throwing them away, especially the smaller sizes, maybe give it to one of the sales reps, Maria. Maria probably would really appreciate adding some height to the size of her shoes, so she could use a little bit of height.
So yeah, definitely think we have Maria on the line. So yeah, yeah, there's the smiley. So yeah, appreciate it. So a question here from one of the participants. So will the video be available? If you're referring to this video, the webinar, that will be available. It's recorded, and we're going to be sending out the link to all the participants for you to review later and share it with your clinics and colleagues. And then, do we order through DJO Dr. Comfort directly? And that is well, in the Nordics we have 4 different markets, 4 different countries, 4 different ways of ordering. I think this participant is from Denmark, and you are ordering through a distributor. So please get in touch with your local specialist there. Yeah. So and you can get the contacts there, and they'll just support you with whatever you need. Right, another question. Will the new stability shoe, for example, Roger, come with Velcro closure?
So I'm going to disclose perfect honesty here. We had planned on it, but the Roger and Ruth were not selling as positively as we were hoping them to do. To sell. So we are looking for an alternate shoe to have, again, the stability shoe with a Velcro closure. So we are working on it, but we just don't know which design. It might go to the Roger and Ruth again, if sales pick up, or it even might go to the Gordon and Grace because that one's doing extremely well. So
Interesting.
That was a good question. Whoever said that is just an absolute genius of a question. So.
Yep. Well, we do have very competent participants here in our webinars. So let's see. So it was a slow start, but now they're just firing off.
So I see a question from my friend Ville. How do you make a choice between if the width is between two measurements? How do you make that decision? I'll be honest. When it comes to the width is probably the most challenging part of the Brannock device because it doesn't always exactly line up. But I will tell you, Ville, that the challenge with that is when you're measuring, there's other factors involved. So just if the width fell between a medium and a wide, for example. On some dress shoes where someone's wearing some thinner socks, if they don't have any swelling, I'm thinking of going with the medium. With an athletic shoe, you ask them if they do have some swelling or they're wearing some thicker socks. That's where I would consider that to be a wide shoe. Because again, based on some of the shoes and designs on how some of the shoes fit, you might want to go up a little bit wider. Again, when I talk about athletic versus dress, the athletic shoes are typically like a cotton lining or a micro suede lining, where the dress shoes are going to be leather lining, and that leather lining is typically not as gripping and not as kind of holding in that patient's foot in place as much as the cotton lining. So you'll typically get better fits with a wider but athletic shoe than you would some of those dress shoes. So that's what I would recommend when it comes to the different width choices. So again, take those other things into consideration, not just what size did you see on the Brannock device? Again, looking at that foot, determining the most appropriate shoes. And I've probably said this before if you've been through any of my trainings or anything, but fitting is an art, not a science. In the way Ville is asking that question, it almost sounds like it's a science. Well, if they're between the two, I'm not going to tell you to go this way every single time because it's more of that art form of understanding the shoes and how they fit and the conditions of the patient's foot and a lot of other factors involved. But great question, though.
All right, thank you, and good answer there. So I think we're getting to the finish line here. We've got about a minute to go. Just for all the participants, I think we do have a few participants that hasn't or haven't ordered shoes yet. Make sure to reach out to us to receive a Brannock device. As Brian mentioned, it's such a big part of the Dr. Comfort concept to get the right measurements, both length, width, and the arch. So if you don't utilize that, then you're losing a lot of the benefits of the Dr. Comfort shoes. So make sure and we'll provide you with the Brannock device.
So Dino, if I could even say one last thing, for those of you who again aren't familiar with Dr. Comfort or anything, you have some fantastic resources there in your countries. Just seeing the names of the list of people who are on here that are your sales team, sales reps and everything. I mean, you've got some fantastic coverage. They're very knowledgeable. They've been through multiple different trainings and have a lot of background with the Dr. Comfort shoes. So definitely use your sales rep as a resource because they're all fantastic. All but one of them, but I won't call that person.
So Brian, thanks again. A great presentation. Just once again, we're recording this, so we're going to be sending out the link to all the participants. So watch it again, share it with your clinics, your colleagues, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So let's hope for some good results over at your country.
Why? What's going on in my country?
And have a great day.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian. Bye-bye.